Shalom, everyone. It's Avi Lipkin here in Israel, and my son is also running the monitor keys there, pinch hitting for Lori, and everything is good here in Israel. I mean, we're very excited about Prime Minister Netanyahu being in Washington today, and we're all waiting for the news tonight, what came out of the meeting. Even though, from what I understand, everything has been programmed already by the Israeli and American teams. So we kind of know what kind of a success we're going to see there with President Trump. We're very excited. This is such a change from the previous administration, which was virulently anti-Israel, even though they let us have some weapons and blocked a large part of our weapons. Um, we did lose, I would say, if not hundreds, we lost dozens of soldiers because of the constant delays imposed on us by the Biden administration. And anyway, so we're waiting to see where we're going. At this time, I think the primary topics of discussion are what is going to happen with Iran, which obviously has to happen. It has to happen soon. Another thing, what is going to happen with the second stage of the prisoner exchange? We still have 2 or 3 more weeks with the first stage, which is the first 33, plus the five Thailand hostages who were returned to Thailand. Um, there are a lot of things we're discussing. Where is this all going? Will Egypt participate? Will Jordan participate? I think Israel actually is trying to convince President Trump not to get Jordan involved because Jordan is already 70 or 90, I don't even know what percentage Jordan is of Palestinians. And the fear is that the moment you send in more radicalizing Palestinians from Gaza, this literally threatens King Abdullah. And it's not so much that we love King Abdullah, but because if King Abdullah falls, then we will have a hostile Gaza type front along the Jordan River boundary and the Arava. Um, we're very concerned about not destabilizing the Jordanian regime. We have been like a proxy, a deliverer of Jordan many times, protecting Jordan from radical elements. Um, the Gaza Arabs are not something which would be good for Jordan. And if it's not good for Jordan, it will not be good for Israel. Regarding Egypt, there are 100 million Egyptians, and they don't want to take even one Gaza Arab. So that's also something we're going to have to see. My personal opinion is that the Gaza Arabs should go to a country like Indonesia. Indonesia is the most populous Muslim country in the world. It's 200 million. So 500,000 Gaza Arabs or a million or 1.5 million would not influence Indonesia or Malaysia, for example. They have plenty of land, which is jungle. It's fertile. They have plenty of oil. They have plenty of water. The Gaza Arabs can easily start a new life there. Altogether, in Indonesia, there are exactly 20 Jews. So there's not much of a threat of Islamist jihad terrorism to kill Jews in Indonesia because there just aren't any. Malaysia is a country which has many Christians, it has many Hindus, many Buddhists. So we're also watching very carefully, will Malaysia help out also? See, for example, if President Trump says, well, we'll give you X amount of money to take in the Gaza Arabs, Indonesia doesn't even really need the money, but I think that as part of the world scheme of things, Indonesia would be a good candidate. Malaysia would be a good candidate. Um, they were talking maybe about sending them to Albania or Kosovo. And in my opinion, that would be a very bad idea because I personally am a fan of the Serbs. And you have to remember that Kosovo was the capital of the greater Serbia before. Pristina, which is the capital of Kosovo, is now 80% Muslim, where it's considered the Jerusalem of the Serbs. So this will be destabilizing. I don't want to say as an expert, but as somebody who's very involved in what goes on with the Balkans, I see a big problem with countries like Macedonia, which has a 40% Muslim minority, which is Albanian. The Serbs are not so much in Serbia, but they are in Kosovo now, which used to be Serbia, which it was bitten off from the Serbs. Bosnia, Kosovo, Albania. The Turkish greater plan is to reestablish a land bridge from the Adriatic Sea all the way to Turkey. In other words, the Muslims would be very, very strong numerically, Gaza Arabs. Again, if you look at the map, you see Albania, you see Kosovo, you see Bosnia, you see Macedonia. I think also Montenegro has Muslims. I don't know the exact numbers, but all of this used to be part of the Turkish land bridge, which was established 500-600 years ago when the Turks conquered the Balkan countries. So I don't think it would be good for us. Maybe Turkey would think it's a good thing because it strengthens the position of the Muslim Turkish land bridge ideology. I don't know, maybe it would be good to send them to Kazakhstan or some of the Russian Muslim republics. But like I said before, I think the ideal situation would be either Indonesia or Malaysia. Those two countries would be good to take in Muslim emigres from Gaza. And they should not be sent either to countries that have big Jewish populations or populations which are very much Christian, but could go either way towards Islam if there's an Islamic invasion of these countries. So that's the situation regarding the emigration of the Gaza Arabs. I watched the channels, the Israeli TV channels, and there is a lot of hype about renewing the fighting with Gaza. And of course, this could happen if President Trump sees that there is no cooperation, meaning if the Gaza terrorists do not disarm themselves and promise to leave voluntarily, there might be indeed a military conflict again in Gaza. So we're waiting to see what's going to happen there. That's regarding Gaza. President Trump is very much aware, and his advisors are very much aware, for example, that Lebanon has a big Hezbollah problem, Shiite Muslims in the south of Lebanon. Our people cannot go back to their homes at the northern border of Israel out of fear that Hezbollah will start firing rockets again or trying to infiltrate. And I have to repeat, when I was young, when I was in the Israeli Army Reserves in 1996, I participated in the war games, and we were told very clearly that the Israeli army expected the north of Israel to be overrun by Hezbollah terrorists. We were told that after 3 days, it would be suicide day for Israel along the Lebanese border. We never realized just how much it was until we went in a few months ago and we found all these tunnels, which were dug in the rock. Underneath every house, there was a tunnel going towards Israel. They were preparing to attack Israel from the north, to infiltrate. This would have been October 7th, like in Gaza, but on steroids. And Israel went in, fought very hard to hopefully to push the Hezbollah north of the Litani River. And now everyone is trying to come back across the Litani River, heading south towards the Israeli border. And if something like this happens, God forbid, the Israeli civilian population will not go back to their homes on the Lebanese border because they will be targeted again, as they were very ruthlessly targeted. And of course, nobody did anything about it until Israel went into the south of Lebanon. And a lot of buildings had to get blown up because they were sitting on top of these tunnels. And they did have plans, like I said before, to send in hundreds and thousands of combat terrorists into Israel to kidnap Jewish and also Arab Israelis and Druze who live in the north of Israel. I think the only thing I can say is that this October 7th war was a tragedy, but it was a miracle. Israel did not have a clue. It's not just about how Gaza was preparing itself to fight us, but it was also preparing together with Hezbollah and Iran and Syria to cause us dastardly damage. And what I see here is a miracle, because what happened in Gaza caused Hezbollah in Lebanon to attack us. And after we neutralized Gaza and after we neutralized Hezbollah in Lebanon, and I think this is somehow coordinated between the US government under Biden and the Turks. The Turks were backing Julani and his Sunni Muslim terrorists to roll into Syria, overthrow the Bashar al-Assad regime. And all I can say is, look, who would have expected, after all these years of conflict between Israel and Syria, who would have expected that Israel would have been able to take Syria virtually without a shot? And now Israel has taken the crown of the Hermon mountain, the summit. We have hundreds of thousands of Druze, Syrian Druze, together with their brethren in Israel, demanding Israel's protection over the Druze areas in the south of Syria. I also saw something which I only heard it once in the Israeli media, that actually there is a very big concentration of Druze population in Damascus. And don't forget, you have the Christians in Damascus. And you have other people who are in Damascus, because Syria was a secular country. It was a national socialist country, like under the Nazis. But there was relative freedom for the different ethnic groups, because the Bashar al-Assad coalition was 10% Shiite, 10% Druze, 10% Christian. They had Kurdish, they had Yazidis, all living in some kind of equality, even though it was still a dictatorship. Now what you have is you have the Sunni, ISIS, Al-Qaeda type mentality planting itself in Syria. And an interesting piece of information that came out on the news a few days ago was that some remnants of the Bashar al-Assad regime were firing at Israeli troops in the south of Syria. I'm not talking about the Sunni terrorists. I'm talking about the old guard people who are still there. Israel fired back, but I didn't hear any more after that because the last few weeks have been dominated in the Israeli news by the hostage and prisoner exchange. So we're watching that very carefully. The Houthis in Yemen have kind of calmed down with their launching their ballistic missiles at Israel because of the ceasefire with Gaza. But that could end, because if Israel resumes military activity with Gaza, the Houthis will again be attacking shipping through the Suez Canal or any ship in that area there. I think also the American government under Biden did not do its job to neutralize the Houthis, and Israel still is facing the Houthis all alone. So I think that's also one of the subjects that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu will be dealing with. What is the day after? What does the future look like in the entire Middle East? And President Trump, who was a businessman, he doesn't understand all these wars. Why are there? And these are mostly Muslims against Muslims, Sunnis against Sunnis, Shiites against Shiites, Sunnis and Shiites against each other. And Iran is planning to make nuclear weapons to destroy Israel, and who knows who else. The Sunnis are very concerned about the Shiite atomic weaponry. So Israel, I think, is carrying the ball, and instead of the U.S. sticking its leg out to trip us, I think we now have a new administration under the Republicans that understand the problem. Good Christians, good, solid, believing Christians who understand that Israel has to be bolstered and not tripped over by Democrats who don't believe in God and therefore they don't believe in Israel. So we're all waiting, holding our breath till tonight to see what happens. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting meeting. I will say that I've looked at the resumes of all of these advisors working with President Trump, and I would say overall I'm very excited about the Trump team, and I'm excited about President Trump, and I'm glad I was able to post the absentee ballot for Trump in the last 3 elections. So I'm hoping we will see some good news coming out of the meeting tonight. What should I say? I think other than that, I'm ready to start taking questions. A lot more information comes out usually during the questions, but if anyone wants to ask, please do. Just unmute yourself and or raise your voice a little. One second, I don't hear you. Also got to turn the music down. I always have some nice classical music playing. Okay, I'm back with you. Who's the first victim?
Avi, I do not know who may be next, but if you can hear me, I'll just ask you. So, given that summary, what is your opinion as to where this conflagration with Israel will go in the future? Last night, I was able to hear Eric Stakelback. He had on Wall in Paris. He says specifically that Hezbollah is not even anywhere near being defeated or done for. What is your opinion as to where we're headed, where Israel is headed at this point?
Well, the situation with Hezbollah is basically the Biden administration decided to kick the can down the road. I'm sure you are acquainted with that expression. We were not allowed to finish the job in Lebanon. We were forced all the way back to the Israeli border, except for some minor changes in the border. And yet the U.S. administration, even today, says Israel must go back to the borders, the not 1701 borders, the borders back in Israel, which means they will be able to continue firing their weapons at us from a distance of about 100 yards. Their towns overlook our towns. So one of the things the Israeli military is saying is that Israel must adjust the borders in such a way that the heights, which are overlooking the Israeli settlements, will be neutralized by Israel. I personally would say annex it and build Jewish communities there or some kind of military civilian presence there. I think probably that's one of the things that Netanyahu is discussing with Trump. Israel's demands at the beginning of the war with Hezbollah in Lebanon was that they had to go north of the Litani River, which did not happen. That was because the Biden administration backed Hezbollah. Biden administration marched in lockstep with the French, and the French also marched in lockstep with Hezbollah. So we are in the position where we may have to start fighting again in Lebanon and push north again, this time all the way to the Litani, and to eliminate the Hezbollah. We really treated Hezbollah with kid gloves, except for when you see the stories we all saw about the beepers and the telephones, and they were very brutally hit by us. But these people don't give up. They're kind of like kamikazes. Kamikazes in World War II. They wouldn't give up. They would fight to the death. We cannot tolerate people fighting to the death on our borders in the north of Israel. So we are watching that very closely. I don't want to say our borders have expanded in Syria, but we have taken lands that were part of the disengagement agreement of 1974, established by Henry Kissinger, at that time Secretary of State. The disengagement meant these were lands that Israel had conquered before, but we gave it up because of what we hoped would be a peaceful situation with Bashar, that at that time was Hafiz al-Assad, the father of Bashar al-Assad. And indeed, we had a relatively quiet border with Syria. But the moment the Bashar al-Assad government was out of the picture and the Sunni ISIS terrorists came in from Turkey, Israel decided no more disengagement agreement. So we took Mount Hermon completely, including the summit, and the areas which included Druze villages along the Golan Heights, and the Suwaida enclave more to the east on the Jordanian border. This has to be protected by Israel in order to ensure the safety of the Druze people living there. And one of the interesting facets of our relationship today with the Druze is, whereas before the Druze of the Golan said, no, we are Syrians, and the Druze in Syria said, well, we are Syrians, and the Suwaida enclave was on the Jordanian border, Mountain of the Druze, as it's called. Their young men continued serving in the Syrian army, and then all of a sudden they realized that they are orphans. And so the Druze, as a bloc, are now with Israel. Even the Druze in Lebanon, they pretend they are not, but they are. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. If you ask me personally, my personal opinion is that we are looking eventually at the expansion of Israel's borders, which will include minorities who, if we don't include them in our expanded borders, if we don't include them, they will be wiped out by either by the Shiites or by the Sunnis. So we're watching this very carefully. The Druze know, hey, listen, these Druze in the Israeli army are among our top officers and top fighters. The Druze are great Israeli patriots, the Druze who live within Israel. But the Druze who live in the Golan Heights, now all of a sudden they're dumping their Syrian passports and getting Israeli passports. The same applies. The same applies to the Suwaida area. Suwaida, you have 400,000, if not more, Druze on the Mountain of the Druze, and that is moving about, I would say, 30, 40, 50 miles eastward. I don't know if you realize, I mean, the Bible prophecy is we're going to move to the Euphrates River. So it's not the Euphrates River yet, but we're getting there. So Syria is a very interesting example of one of the craziest schemes set up by the French and British foreign ministries after World War One. 35% of Syria is Kurdish, and these people are solidly allies of Israel. If you look at the map, you'll see that from Suwaida, there is this physical possibility of a road going from Mountain of the Druze up to the Kurdish areas. This would allow for Turkish civilian aircraft to fly out in and out of the Kurdish area. Rojava. Rojava is the Kurdish name for their new country. The only thing that they're lacking is an air circuit, an air access. And they are blocked by the Turks, blocked by the Iraqis, blocked by the Iranians, blocked by the Syrians. So if Israel moves to the east and then up to the north, we join up with the Kurds. So the entire map of the Middle East is going to change. I don't know what's happening with President Trump, but I think he understands that he will get the Nobel Peace Prize. It cannot be a country officially that speaks Arabic and punishes over half of its population. So the Kurds will be with Israel, the Druze will be with Israel. The Christians could be, if they want, part of Israel. They're all in Damascus. So I don't know what the Turks are planning with Julani. We will see. We will see. But it's interesting that the Turkish-backed ISIS terrorists hate the Hezbollah. So it may even be that the Sunni-backed terrorists will go and fight the Iranian-backed Shiite terrorists. We're living in a crazy neighborhood. I think even President Trump probably thinks to himself, this is crazy. This is, how can people not be living together like this? The Middle East is not the Midwest. But I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu has a good grip on things, and I think he and his team will be able to sit down with President Trump and his team. I think we're going to see really world-changing things happening in Lebanon and Syria and maybe Iraq also. By the way, just to tell you a little something about Iraq, I haven't spoken about Iraq in a long time. When Saddam Hussein was the dictator of Iraq, 20% were 20% were Sunni Muslims, and they totally dominated the country. 60% of the population was Shiite, and they were massacred, they were butchered by Saddam Hussein. And 20% of the population was the Kurds up in the north, in Erbil. And Saddam Hussein dropped poison gas on the Kurds. This is crazy. So when George W. Bush, former president, said, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to bring democracy to Iraq, what did he do? He took out the Sunnis, who were 20%, and he gave the rule over to the Shiites, who were 60%. So you had democracy, but the problem was the democracy was not democratic. The democracy was giving a voice to 60% of the population, which was Shiite, and then they were in turn taken over by the Iranians. Of course, who falls in between the cracks? The Kurds. So in my opinion, there has to be a country called Rojava, which will be the Kurds of Iraq, Kurds of Syria, Kurds of Iran, and Kurds of Turkey. I haven't spoken about that in a long time, but these are mistakes that were made by the British and the French 100 years ago. Again, regarding Iran, I don't remember. I'm not capable of answering who set up the original borders of Iran, but the north of Iran has a population of Azeris. Azeris are the same ethnic group as Azerbaijan to the north. Azerbaijan is an ally of Israel, even though it's Muslim and it's Turkic. To the south of the Azeris is the Kurds. So the Kurds also have a part. Many people are saying that Iran has to be dismembered, that 50% of Iran is Persian, the original Iranians, and all these other groups that were basically forced into the Union, they would be happy to break away. I mean, the Azeris could go back and join Azerbaijan, which is a very rich country with oil, and Israel is an ally. The Kurds could be part of Rojava. So you see, little by little, Iran is being chopped down to size. You have in the southwest of Iran, you have the Arabic-speaking people of the southwest where the oil is. To the southeast, you have the Baluchis, who are a Sunni Muslim group. Their leadership is terrorist. They're fighting the Pakistanis, they're fighting the Afghanis, they're fighting the Iranians. The question is, do we want to see Iran broken up into smaller parts, or do we want to preserve the unity, the sovereignty of the Iranian land as it is today? All of these things are, I think eventually they are negotiable. In the end, it's crazy, but in the end, it's the Israelis who will probably have to make the decision. I think our relations with the Iranian people are such that we are not interested in dismembering Iran. So we're going to see that. But like I said before, with Syria, with Lebanon, all these things can happen imminently. And you're right, the gentleman who asked, Hezbollah is still there. And that's because Biden made sure to it that they were still there. Biden did it, and the Democrats did everything they could to make sure that Israel could not win. Israel could just barely get away with defending itself. So now, I think President Trump, if he really, really wants economic stability worldwide, the situation in the Middle East has to be resolved. Any other questions?
Avi, I have a question.
1
It's
second.
Megan.
Megan, yes, I started looking for your picture or your name. We have a nice,
Yes,
I see your name. Okay, good. We have
yes,
a
sir.
nice bunch today of people.
So I know I always ask about the Beavis family, and I don't mean to prioritize them over any other hostages because that's not my intention. I just, for some reason, there's on my heart, and because they're redheads, they kind of have a higher price on them as well. Um, have we heard anything? I know the father is alive, right? Have we heard anything
The
else?
father was exchanged. He's
Yes.
home. He's actually, he and the two others are in the hospital being revitalized because they were starved to death in these underground tunnels.
Oh, wow.
So they're taking care of the father now. But I think because he had been separated from his wife and his two kids, he doesn't even really know what their destiny is.
That's
So
what I was wondering. Yeah.
yeah, we personally, I don't know. I don't have a clue, but I think that the wife and the kids are still alive because they were really like high priority prisoners.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
probably they will be held to the last prisoner exchange in order to make sure they can extract from Israel as much as possible. So the question then is asked, uh, when does Israel break and resume the war? So meanwhile, we've gotten back, I think, how many was it? Was it 19? Prisoners, we still have 14 left, or we got 14 and we have 19 left. I don't know. So
Yeah.
um, all I can say is, we all had tears in our eyes when we saw the people being released, and the young women and the men.
Oh, for
And
sure.
I mean, there's an 80-year-old farmer there, and it was incredible how he stood up to all that. But he was a strong man. But still, he lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
This was not the Olive Garden we're talking about here. By the way, Olive Garden is my favorite restaurant when I'm in the States. So, good question. We don't know anything until 2 or 3 days before the exchange, when the Palestinians finally allow us to know what the names are of the
Okay.
people being exchanged. Yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
my pleasure. Any other questions?
Is Bibi Netanyahu in the US today?
Yes, yes, yes. He's in Washington, probably meeting. I don't know if he's meeting with Trump right now, but he will be meeting in the White House sometime in the late afternoon, which is sleepy time here, I think. And probably we won't hear anything until our morning here in Israel. And of course, the Israeli team will be feeding the press with all the achievements of the meeting. Or shall I say, if God forbid there's anything bad in the meeting, we are sure to hear about it. Um, there are those people in Israel and in America who say, "Oh, that Trump, he's going to stab you in the back. You just wait and see." And in other words, all the people who voted for Trump were crazy. So I was one of the crazy ones. I think Trump is going to do right by God and by Israel and by the United States. So personally, I think he gets a lot of credit here in Israel, even before anything happens. Don't forget, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He recognized the Golan Heights, established a community there. We're excited about a lot of things that Trump has done for us. And most important of all now, he's releasing all the weaponries that the Biden administration was blocking. So it was a horrible thing for Israel to think that we were so totally dependent on America for everything. And all of a sudden, a Democratic Party comes to power. The president decides to block weapons that Israel paid for according to agreements with the US. Yeah, to answer your question, yes, everyone is in Washington. The top people are there, and I don't know where you are. I think it's the first time that I see you, but you just watch the media tonight in America, and you'll start hearing the results of where are you from? I hear you have an accent.
Oh, I'm in Minnesota, but I'm from Florida. Español.
Ah, ¿qué me dice?
Hola.
Okay. Hola. My parents are from Argentina, and
Oh,
Argentine Spanish is my mother tongue.
wow. I
But
was
every
just I was
yeah,
just there in November in your Lipton tour.
uh-huh. We're in Argentina.
No, in Israel.
Ah, and you didn't call me?
No, you picked us up at the airport. I don't think you remember. I was with Betahila,
Ah, yes, yes, yes. Now I remember.
the Espanol girl.
Yeah, yes, very good, very good. One of the worst things, I shouldn't say this during the broadcast, but one of the worst things is when you see a beautiful woman and you say to her, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" Encantado.
Okay, gracias.
Do me a favor. It says Zoom user. Remind me your name.
Gloria.
Gloria, please be in touch with Tikva and with Pastor Nick and tell them I was supposed to be coming to the States this week. And my doctor, I think she's in love with me. And she says, "You're not going anywhere. You're staying here in Israel until you get your A1C sugar down." So my sugar is coming down, but you don't mess with the doctors. When they say get your sugar down, you have to get your sugar down. So probably I will travel to the States in May. So we shall see.
Okay, I will let them know because I remember you saying you were going, but something about your car maybe not working. But we'll keep you in prayer, and I will let them know.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. The good news is, I suppose I can say it here now. that I have invitations now to California and invitations to Colorado. And so actually, if I go in to the States in May, I can put in a good 2 or 3 months from Florida all the way to the West Coast. So we shall see what I'm able to do. And again, hopefully there should be no war, because if the war starts all over again, then I'm stuck here behind the TV and behind the computer doing Zooms and telling everyone what's going on. So, but tell Pastor Nick and Tikva that I miss them very much.
Yes, sir, I will. Let's see.
Hi, Megan.
Hey, Avi.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing. I just wanted to say hey.
I see Susan Pellegrini. I see Elizabeth. I see Angela. All my best friends. Ah, Elizabeth, are you listening? Are you there, Elizabeth?
Yes, I'm listening.
I've got some, I don't know if it's bad news or maybe it's mixed bad news, good news. My doctor forbade me to travel. I think you just heard that.
Yes,
So
sir.
I will have to reschedule with your group probably in May, or
Okay,
June, as I'm driving cross country.
that'll work.
From you, probably I'll go up to Amarillo and then up to Colorado and then either up to Montana. I don't know. I've got invitations everywhere, but I also have to go to California. So we'll see what's going on.
Okay.
Another thing that you guys didn't ask me about, but I have to mention, I don't think there will be elections before the official time of October 2026. But if elections are called soon, this trip is very crucial for fundraising. I don't need the money for myself. This is for, publicity for the party, and publicity costs a lot of money to get the message out. So anyway, so if I go to the States, May, June, July, August, I mean, sometime in that period, it will be a very important time for fundraising for the Bible Block Party. So meanwhile, I'm just, biding my time here and doing the Zooms and getting ready and bringing my sugar down.
Hi, Abby.
Hi, Angela.
Hello. Avi, I was just thinking, I saw Jelani had obviously went to Saudi Arabia, and I think today he's meeting with Erdogan in Turkey. What do you think the purpose of that is?
Who went to Saudi Arabia and Turkey?
Oh, Julani from the new leader of HDS Syria.
Ah, Julani.
Julani, yeah.
You throw me with your British accent, your
Yeah,
Jersey
sorry.
accent.
Sorry,
Yeah,
darling.
yeah. Well, firstly, you have to remember that Julani is backed by the Turks.
Yeah.
And because he's a Sunni, he probably thinks he can go to Saudi Arabia and have a great time there with the Sunni leadership there. Maybe he's trying to bring Turkey and Saudi Arabia closer to each other. Actually, President Trump is trying to improve his relations with Turkey as well. So
Yeah.
it's President Trump with the Sunnis against the Shiites.
I don't know, but Turkey's just signed an agreement with Somalia and Ethiopia.
Well, there is a war going on between Somalia and Ethiopia.
What's it got to do with Turkey?
Well, they're trying to be peace brokers.
All right.
you have to remember something else. Okay, here's a good long shot for you. Ethiopians built their dam on the Blue Nile.
Ah, yes.
And the Ethiopians are now threatening water supply to Egypt. So the Egyptians are going bananas with this.
Yeah.
Somalia is against Ethiopia traditionally. So the Somalis, therefore, are being allies of Egypt. And within Somalia, there's an area called Somaliland, and
Yeah.
they are trying to break away from Somalia, and they are going to be allies of Ethiopia, and they're going to give landlocked Ethiopia a port to the Red Sea.
Right.
So a major war could break out between Ethiopia, Somalia, and Somaliland. And I think maybe the Turks are trying to be peacemakers there. One of the things that concerns Israel is that the same Egypt that is being damaged by the Houthi missiles blocking ships going through the Suez Canal. They also have a problem with Ethiopia, which, by the way, is pretty much an ally of Israel. It's almost like you're reading the Bible.
It is, isn't it? All these alignments taking place.
And and actually, I was asked to write an article for an African magazine, which is pro-Israel. And I said to them, hey, Ethiopia and the people of Israel have a bloodline going back to King Solomon, Queen of Sheba. It's all in the Bible. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah. Interesting. And I also saw there was some scuffles in Egypt. The Egyptians were stealing the aid for Gaza. So, and they were there protesting against any Palestinians coming into the country, into Egypt. And then there was aid destined to go into Gaza, and they started to steal it. So I think there's like quite a lot of internal disruptions within Egypt itself. The population are obviously in dire need.
An interesting point. I'm changing the subject, but it comes back to Egypt again. And that is that yesterday, for example, in the news, I mean, we hear about this all the time, but a very, very large part of the Egyptian military is now parked in the Sinai, very close to Gaza and to the Israeli border. And so we don't know if this is just flexing of the muscles, or is Egypt really preparing for a war with Israel?
Yeah, I don't get a good feeling, I have to say.
Maybe the Egyptians are thinking the Israelis are weak after fighting with Gaza, after the fighting in Lebanon, after Syria, after the Houthis. And I mean, you would think if the Egyptians had any brains, they would draw closer to Israel because Israel is fighting the Houthis, the same Houthis who are damaging Egypt's economy.
Exactly.
Egypt has lost billions of dollars, maybe more. And we're not an enemy of Egypt, but I think there's something
brewing,
wrong in the brains of the. I think something pharaonic in the brains of the Egyptian leadership, where they needed 10 plagues to understand what was happening with the Jewish slaves. Maybe they got something wrong in their brain. I don't know.
They're strengthening in ties with Turkey.
Egypt,
I see. They
Egypt.
also.
By the way, Egypt has no enemy. Nobody wants to attack Egypt. All this military build up, with the help of the American government, by the way, is for war with Israel.
And they are now reinstating their nuclear program. I just read this morning.
Who, the Egyptians?
Egypt, yeah. It was in Egypt Today. I read it. And Al-Sahar.
I wouldn't be surprised. Thank you for telling us that. But our military analysts here in Israel talk a lot about Egypt. and that we have to be ready for anything. What can I say?
Yeah. Okay, we're watching. I have to exit today because I'm gonna go on another prayer, the ICEJ, because Christine is praying for the meeting with
Did you say Christine Darg?
yeah, with
What,
Trump and Bibi.
what was
So
that? I didn't hear what you were saying about her.
yeah, she's going to be praying shortly on the ICJ platform, the
Okay.
global
Good,
prayer gathering.
good,
So
good.
I want to catch that
Give
and
her my
pray
regards
along
if it comes up.
if it comes up. Yeah, I certainly will. God bless you all.
Bless you,
Speak
Angela.
soon. Shalom, shalom.
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 Any more questions? I feel neglected if you don't ask questions.
I'll ask one. Is is Netanyahu scheduled to speak to Congress or to speak to anybody while he's here?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
think so. I think the express purpose of his visit is President Trump
Yes, sir.
achieve what can be achieved and come home.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I wasn't gonna miss anything.
By the way, he did speak in Congress not too long ago,
Yes, I know.
and
I try to follow him every time.
Biden didn't like it at all.
No, we didn't.
Praise
And
God.
it was a great speech too.
Ah, התקשרת? Okay. You'll excuse the telephone and messages coming in, but okay, guys. Do we want to call it a wrap, or is there any last minute questions, comments, questions?
Avi, good morning.
Yes.
My question is about Trump and the Iron Dome over America. Um, what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's very important because the United States, firstly, let's just go step by step. I don't know what your opinion is. I think your opinion is the same as mine. But I think the United States is the greatest country in the world.
Right,
No country can replace the United States, not Russia, not China, no one.
right,
But Russia, China, North Korea have missiles which can harm the United States.
Yes.
Israel has missiles which can defend the United Israel, and we have a sharing mode with the United States military, and President Trump did say that Iron Dome and all these other systems would be produced in the United States for homeland security. So I think, how can it be that Israel has missiles to defend itself, but the United States is totally open to missile attack, including from Venezuela and Cuba?
I agree.
So the United States has to be ready to defend itself. I see things happening. I'm reading very carefully all the different emails regarding the Panama Canal, and I mean the Chinese are on the verge of taking over Panama.
Yes.
And they have a land bridge to Colombia with Petro, and a land bridge to Venezuela with Maduro.
Right.
These threaten the soft underbelly of the United States. This has to be fixed, and so the United States has to have the capability of blocking these missiles from coming in.
Right. Okay. I was just curious with Elon Musk and the Doge and the interesting cutting of spendings and what they just found in the US aid being exposed, how quickly they would be working on this Iron Dome.
No, it's absolutely essential for the United States. I think the United States runs the risk of being attacked by a lot of enemies.
Yes, yes. What do you think of Trump taking back the Panama Canal? Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, many times when Trump talks, there's a lot of bluster, and basically he uses bluster to force the other side to make some corrections in the behavior of that other side.
Right.
And for example, Panama, the Chinese are running all over the place there. And the Panama Canal, it's not, there are two problems. One is the outrageous prices they're charging the Americans for the use of the Panama Canal, which the Americans built and Jimmy Carter gave it over to Panama for $1.
Right.
Sometimes you wonder to yourself, how can America be world power number one when you have such stupid presidents?
Well, thank God for the forefathers.
For what? Anyway, so I'm watching Panama. Colombia was always an ally of the United States, and it seems like the corruption in the right wing there was such that the socialist won. You have a socialist in Chile. Chile has a socialist government, very anti-Semitic. And Chile used to be the most pro-Western country in Latin America. Today, Argentina is the most pro-Western country in Europe, in Latin America.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud to say that with me, MAGA is not make America great again, but it's make Argentina great again.
There you go. Well, he certainly adopted it.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't born in Argentina, but my family was from Argentina, and so I have a great love for Argentine culture and music and steaks, so papa frita. So
oh, thank you, Avi.
My pleasure. Any more questions? I do have another Zoom in half an hour, so if there are no more questions, we'll call it a wrap.
All right, Avi, I will talk to you later. It was good to see you. Shalom, and please stay safe.
Good to see you. And it seems like I'm still going to be doing Zooms for the next few weeks. We'll see. I may come to the States in May, so we'll see.
We
We
can't wait to
want you
see you,
here
so stay
healthy.
healthy. Yes, ma'am. All
Bye,
right.
Avi.
Shalom.
Okay, shalom, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Now I have to tell Aaron,
Shalom, shalom.
stop taping. Aronchi? Siamno. Bye.